Good evening. Some of our trains have up to 4.5 million miles on the clock, and there's now an urgent need to replace old and cramped carriages. That's according to a group of MPs, who also say there's been a huge failure to account for a significant rise in passenger numbers. We're taking more than twice as many journeys on trains as we did 10 years ago, which MPs say has led to overcrowding and customers are left dissatisfied. Here's our business correspondent, Brian Meakin.
It's a service many have always relied on. But while the travellers may have changed, it seems the trains haven't. Those operated today by Arriva Trains Wales are, on average, 27 years old. The MPs argue that the increasing number of passengers who want to use the service have had enough of the conditions. There have been complaints about the standard of the carriages and about the overcrowding that many believe happens too regularly.
Nearly every day I'm standing to and from work. Like today I'm finishing earlier, so it's not going to be as bad, but during peak times it's no good at all. It's really, really bad. I've seen people fainting, people being sick.
On the whole, I think because we travel on the Valleys lines, it's very, very good, but I do appreciate come Saturdays, you've only got 3 carriages on, there should be more. They don't take that into account.
The Welsh Affairs Select Committee says the problem was that when the contract was agreed between the UK's Strategic Rail Authority and Arriva, it didn't factor in more people using trains.
When the original franchise was put into place, not enough account was taken of the possibility of a huge growth in numbers, which we subsequently saw. It therefore ended up costing a lot more money than it should have done to deal with this. Having said that, we do recognise that Arriva Trains Wales and the Welsh Assembly Government work quite well to overcome those problems.
Passenger journeys have increased by around 50%, with over 29 million in 2014-2015, around 10 million more than a decade before. Arriva Trains Wales' profits have remained fairly consistent. It's made over £88 million in the last 5 years, with the vast bulk of that being paid as a dividend to its owners, the German transport company Deutsche Bahn. Again, over a 5-year period, the company has received roughly £750 million from the Welsh Government in subsidies. Arriva Trains Wales says it welcomes the fact that the report recognises there have been improvements and investments in its services. However, it does say it will continue to try to solve the problems, but as the MPs made clear, there's no quick or easy solution. The company's trains run across the whole of Wales, and it also operates railway stations, including Bangor, where passengers gave their views on the services provided by Arriva.
When they come, they're packed and because they're really tiny. Most
of the time they're fine for me, but I'm also not always travelling at peak time.
Arriva's trains are generally running on time, while overcrowding on services arriving in Cardiff is worse than on trains arriving in Bristol and Liverpool. It's better than those pulling into Manchester and Leeds. But the Welsh Government says the current franchise isn't fit for purpose. Major investment will be needed soon.
70% of the Arriva fleet will not be able to be used after 2020 because of new disability regulations, and therefore those will have to be replaced. But the impact is the degree of breakdown. I think if we had 40-year-old cars, we would have a problem keeping those going.
Arriva is one of 4 bidders for the next franchise, which comes up in 2018. The Welsh Government will award that on a not-for-profit basis, signalling a major change in direction in the future of rail.
Good evening. Unions say they'll fight against a potential 1,000 job losses at the Ford engine plant in Bridgend with all their might. The plant currently employs 1,760 workers, but a leaked document seen by BBC Wales says this could be cut to 600 if the company is unable to bring any new work to the site. The First Minister, Carwyn Jones, said it's not a foregone conclusion that the jobs will go, adding that the Welsh Government will do all it can to prevent major job losses. With the first of our reports tonight, here's our business correspondent, Brian Meakin.
Workers arrived for the afternoon shift at Ford's Bridgend plant to hear details of what the future could look like, just as others left from the morning shift, having heard the news from unions.
Very disappointing. There are a lot of people are down. Obviously, people with a couple of years service in there, but we're not hearing anything of management and union, only these leaked documents, and nobody knows what's going on.
What do you think is going to happen?
A lot of men are going to finish, and they'll just keep it at the bare minimum and I think Ford will then run it down and shut the plant.
The Ford Bridgend plant opened in 1980 and has fought fierce global competition to win investment over decades. It currently makes 655,000 engines a year, but those contracts are coming to an end, and there's only guaranteed work for 125,000 in future. The Union Unite says it will continue to fight to win work.
I'm making a clear call to this company. Stop attacking my members and the workers here at Bridgend. They're not responsible for what's going on here. It's the company and the management who have controlled this for many years. And our determination now, and we're in the process of consulting with our members about what options we've got, but our determination is to make certain that we keep this plant open.
Ford argues more work will only be won if the plant becomes more efficient. The leaked document says that this plant is underperforming in comparison to other similar sites such as Ford Dagenham. Overtime levels are more than double what they are at Dagenham, and that adds 6% to the cost of the engines produced. The company blames absence, non-performance and unusual work practices, including paying staff allowances they're not entitled to. The First Minister, who's also the local Assembly member, voiced his concerns during a trip to Washington.
What's been outlined is a scenario that's a worst case scenario. What would happen if no further projects came into Bridgend by 2021? So what we need to do is to work with Ford and work with the union to make sure that Bridgend does attract those new projects, to make sure that those jobs are kept in Bridgend.
There are calls for the UK government to do more, and the future of Ford Bridgend came up at Prime Minister's questions.
Can I have an assurance from the Prime Minister that she will arrange for her ministers to meet with Ford and with Unite the Union to see what can be done to support Ford to ensure continuity of engine production in the Bridgend Ford plant?
We have had, as I said, dialogue with Ford. We will continue to have a regular dialogue with Ford about the ways in which government can help to make sure that this success continues.
This plant has provided the Bridgend community and beyond with well-paid, stable jobs for almost 40 years. The company, unions and workers have problems that need to be fixed if it's to do the same for 40 more.
Tata Steel and its German rival ThyssenKrupp have agreed to merge their European operations in a move that threatens thousands of jobs. The two companies have been in negotiations since last year, when Tata abandoned plans to sell its UK operations. The deal includes Britain's biggest steelworks at Port Talbot in South Wales. Our correspondent Brian Meechan is in Port Talbot for us now. Brian.
Well, it's been a turbulent few years for the workers here in Port Talbot. There was an abandoned sales process and they had to take a reduction in their pension benefits. I think this merger shows some certainty for them. However, it does mean that they will have to look to the long term as well. And that's why the unions are now calling for investment here, including the refurbishment of one of the blast furnaces, to show a long-term commitment from this new merged ThyssenKrupp Tata company. They want to see that workers will have jobs here, not just in 3 or 4 years' time, but in 10, 20 years' time. Now, they say they have had commitments from the company that there will be no reduction in production. They also say there will be no closure of sites. But the world is producing much more steel than it needs, and that is still a concern.
Brian, thank you.
Heathrow offers huge potential on our doorstep, but we haven't always got it right in the past.
That's right, Jamie. Well, we heard from ProSteel Engineering in that report. That was a company that did get contracts with the Olympics and also with another major project that is going on in London at the moment, Crossrail. But that's really unusual. It's generally accepted that Wales and Welsh companies didn't do particularly well out of the Olympics. Crossrail, however, has been in Wales a number of times. It's held a series of events in order to try and encourage businesses to come forward. Now, Heathrow says that it plans to do the same. It is committed to this. But I think it also has to be said, it's not just about what Heathrow can offer Welsh businesses. It's about Welsh businesses showing that they're competitive and that they have something to offer Heathrow too.
Brian Meechan in Cardiff, thank you.